Guys, and welcome to another Kitchen Draft Live. In today's video, we're gonna be cooking something very simple. Well, something kind of Romanian, but in the same time, my style. So hang in there because we're gonna go through all the ingredients that you need for today's recipe. I hope you have an amazing Sunday today. Let's just have fun and cook something easy. It's not that complicated, to be honest, although we have quite a few ingredients here. Let me show you to see what's going on here. So that's what we've got here so far. It probably looks a bit intimidating, but it's not as complicated. Trust me, we shouldn't be longer than 1 hour or so. I don't want to say less because every time I say less, we're here for another like 30 minutes on top of whatever I say. So in today's video, we're going to be making, as mentioned earlier, something kind of Romanian, but in the same time my way, which is polenta. So polenta is quite popular in Romania. I'm going to make a polenta that is kind of my style, but in the same time with some sort of Romanian origin. After that, we have some mushrooms. We have a variety of mushrooms here. I'm just going to show you to see what's going on. So we've got oyster mushrooms and we've got some chestnut mushrooms. Obviously, the more variety, the better the recipe will be. That's what I found in the shops. Try to stay away from white button mushrooms, although they are good in certain situations. They don't have much flavor. And for this recipe, you kind of need a bit of that mushroom flavor in there. And you don't really get that much with white button mushrooms. So try to go for something like chestnut, which are pretty much the same price, but just slightly stronger flavor. You can actually feel it a bit like mushroomy flavor, a lot better in my opinion than white button. And then oyster mushrooms, these are definitely like next level, but even the price is a bit higher. So if you can get obviously something like ceps or proper like mushrooms I'm talking about, which are a lot more expensive than these, then go for it. If not, you can just use whatever you've got. Now, we're gonna start first making the sauce, which is the mushroom sauce, because we're making polenta with some mushroom sauce. In Romanian, this would be called something like paprikash with mămăligă. So mămăligă would be the polenta. Paprikash is like the white mushroom stew, which is made with sour cream. But today we're also adding a bit of sweet cream, like cooking cream, because I want to have like a proper balance between sweet and sour. Obviously, it's totally up to you. You can add it, you cannot add it. If you were to go like Romanian, full Romanian all the way, you're obviously not going to add the sweet cream. You're only going with sour cream. When it comes to the polenta, I'm just going to run you through like what we're going to do. So when I'm going to be making the polenta, I'm going to follow the traditional recipe in a way till to a point, as traditional as you can get. And I'm gonna also add some Parmigiano Reggiano, which is definitely not Romanian, let's be honest. Not that you cannot find it in Romanian shops, but in the same time, I'm gonna try to add this to give you a bit of like that cheesy flavor. So as I said, it's kind of Romanian, but it's not because it's my way, but I really hope that you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna enjoy this recipe. So make sure you stick around. Okay, so now let's get the sauce on the heat. We're gonna go gradually because I thought about doing them in the same time and get it done faster, but I want to make sure that you kind of understand each one of the steps. So that's why I'm gonna just go gradually. First we're making the sauce and after the polenta, and after that we combine the two together at the end as a finished dish. Now, for the sauce, I'm only gonna be using half onion. You can go with more, but in this situation, I wanna feel that mushroom flavor more than anything else. So we're gonna go with, well, we're gonna go, if I find my knife. Oh, here it is. Okay, perfect. So half onion is all we need. I'm also gonna be adding garlic, but garlic, I'm not gonna chop it in. I'm just gonna crush it and add it here. Remove it once it's done its job, because I don't want too much garlic flavor. I don't want it to be too strong. And if you put it like this, you just crush it, you're gonna get a light garlic aroma, because that's all we need. Garlic and mushrooms work very well together. And obviously, if you want to go a bit more garlicky, just go for it because it should work. Let's be honest, like garlic mushrooms, good friends, so it should be fine. Hello, Monica. How are you doing? Adina, let's say, because I don't know you as Monica. Hello from Jersey. How are you doing? Okay, so now half onion. Nothing complicated, just get a half onion and chop it finely. Go as fine as you can. Obviously, if you're gonna get it like slightly all over the place. It's not going to do any harm, but try to do it as fine as possible so we get a nice consistency sauce. I'm just going to show you, like, if you want to get, like, in order to get good results, especially when you're starting, but even after, you want to keep the end of the onion here, because this is holding the whole thing together. So once you go like this, it's going to stay in place a lot better if, let's say, I was going to chop that. So that's just like a little trick which you probably already use. Okay, so chopping these as fine as we can. I mean, we can definitely go finer than that, but this will do the job. Okay. Italia. Okay, here we go. Hello, lovely people. Some of them from Facebook, some of them from YouTube. We're all here together to cook something nice and easy. Nice to see you on the stream. Some kid from Britain. Hello, hello. Okay, so with the garlic, as mentioned, I'm just gonna crush it and just leave it like this, crushed, and it's gonna go straight into the pan. We'll try to remove it after that. To be honest, I went a bit hard on it, so it's gonna go all over the place now, but that's fine. So, okay, so just so you can see what's going on here. Now, let's turn on the heat, a bit of veg oil. In this situation, I'm not adding extra virgin olive oil because I want to kind of keep it plain. 2 tablespoons of veg oil or so. We're gonna add a bit of butter as well, so that's why you don't really need that much oil right from the beginning. Yeah, olive oil tends to have that kind of strong flavor, which, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love it. But for something like this, I'm trying to stay away from it just because it's kind of strong. And vegetable oil, especially if you have something like canola oil, or I don't even know what kind of oil this is. It might be sunflower, but anyway, something that's kind of neutral does the job and is perfect for what we've got here today. Now, we're gonna go with this scene because we can go in, we're just gonna kind of like sweat the onion. And before it's like sweating the onion is basically just cooking it just before it starts getting that golden brown color. Once it's kind of translucent, that's when you know it's done. Now, while this is kind of getting there, we're gonna go in with the mushrooms. I'm just gonna prepare the mushrooms. Like, they are pretty okay the way they are. I'm just gonna go with I'm just gonna chop them slightly smaller. And then, so we're going slightly smaller with the mushroom because we don't want like big chunks in there. Anyway, they're gonna kind of reduce during cooking, so I wouldn't worry about that if, let's say, you get some chunkier bits in there. For some reason, I absolutely love chopping mushrooms. It's such a, I don't know, it just works well for chopping. The texture feels really great when the knife goes through it. I guess it helps that you have when you have a professional knife or a proper sharp knife. That's probably where the excitement is coming from. So it's all up to you how much you use, but bear in mind that this will get kind of reduced by the time you finish this. You're gonna end up only with like half the amount, just because mushrooms contain a lot of water. So yeah, you're not gonna have a huge amount here. And again, it's up to you how thin you want to cut them, but in the same time, you don't want to go too thin since they kind of get reduced to almost, well, not almost nothing, but at least to a half. So you don't want to go too thin. I kind of want to feel some of that mushroom texture in a way, although it's a sauce in the end. It's kind of in between, because we have the creamy sauce and we have the mushrooms, but we need to have some sort of like good balance in between these two. I see that we have 6 people. Thank you guys for watching. I mean, if you're in the stream, I would really appreciate if you give this a share or a like. It will really help the algorithm. If let's say you know other friends or family that would like to make this recipe, then yeah, just share it with them. And yeah, let's just have a good time this Sunday evening. Okay, this is definitely on the lowest heat ever, so I'm just gonna go a bit up. So we have here a question from some kid from Britain saying that is polenta a winter food. Well, polenta in Romania is year-round, to be honest. It's one of those, but I can definitely consider it a winter food since it comes in a package like this. It's dry. It lasts kind of, not forever, but it lasts quite a long time. So mushrooms are kind of wintry, well, end of autumn. And you have the polenta, which is dry. It's same like using like plain flour. So you can definitely use it in multiple situations and whenever you want to use it. There are so many things that you can make with polenta, but I'm just gonna kind of make it simple today. You can make polenta fries if you want to. You can make it like baked in the oven with cheese, and that's how we kind of doing it in Romania. That's another popular one with cheese and pork. It's like pork pancetta. It's like pork belly in a way, just properly fried. And then you kind of do it in layers. You get cheese, and then you get it into the oven. And then once all that cheese melts, it's just absolutely amazing. But obviously, it all depends on what you want to do. But I definitely believe that this can be a winter dish, and it can be done during summer as well. Yeah, it's just one of those that can be easily prepared whenever. I mean, all these ingredients, let's be honest, apart from, I'm going to use some dill, but even with the dill, let's say, you can, if let's say it's not in season, because now, let's be honest, dill is not in season at this point. If you want to keep like full in season, what we're doing here, most likely you can use some dry dill, let's say. So you can kind of get away with it, going like as close as to whichever the season, because you can adapt the ingredients. Now, I'm also going to add a bit of butter in there, because once I get in the mushrooms, we got quite a big pile of mushrooms, you can say. But as I said, once it gets into frying, they're going to reduce to about half. So it is a lot, but in the same time, it's not. So we're going to get these in so butter in. It kind of starts getting translucent. I'm going to get in the mushrooms now. I'm going to increase the heat. I'm not going to go crazy with this. I don't want to really give them any color in a way, because it's kind of like a white stew anyway. But in the same time, I still want them to incorporate with all that onion, garlic to retain some of that flavor. Now, I'm going to be adding a bit of pepper. Not a lot, but we're still going with a bit of pepper, although this is considered like a white stew in a way. We're going with a bit of pepper. You can go with white if you want to. I never really have white pepper. I don't really use white pepper. I find that the freshly grounded black pepper does the job in multiple situations, so I'm just kind of going with that. So we've got the mushrooms here. We want to cook them till they kind of reduce by half, although they're going to probably get a bit of color as well. Meanwhile, the butter is melting, so we're going to have a bit of juice in there. They're going to release some of that water. And that's one of the reasons I usually recommend add the salt right from the beginning. And we could do that. We could go with the salt right now. The problem is, as soon as you get the salt in, they leave even more water. So that's the problem that we're gonna kind of encounter if we go with the salt right away. So I would suggest leave the salt for a bit till they reduce slightly and they get maybe even a bit of color. Because if they get a bit of color, that's no problem. If they don't, it's no problem either. Ideally, you probably want a bit of color, although it's a white stew. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself with what I said earlier, but obviously giving them color, you're gonna give them flavor as well. So that's probably the reason why you want that as well. Okay, so let me just show you what's going on here. So these mushrooms continue cooking. We had pepper in there. I should probably add just a touch more because I didn't add much, although it kind of looked like it. So good pinch of black pepper. And then, yeah, we're going to leave this for another like 3-4 minutes or so. And then, okay, we don't need the onion anymore. That's out of the way. Okay, I'm breaking everything apart here. Just 1 second. Let me give you a quick clean because I'm just making onion everywhere. I kind of forgot how to toss vegetables or mushrooms or whatever I'm doing here is definitely wrong. Let's keep it nice and clean. If you guys have any questions, obviously drop them in the chat. And if you're late into the stream, we are making polenta It's like a Romanian style kind of dish. My way, as mentioned at the beginning. And we're making it with a nice mushroom sauce. A nice, simple mushroom sauce, in my opinion, nothing complicated. So for the sauce, we're going to be using some sour cream. We're going with single cream here, although you can use double as well. You're just kind of knowing how much to add. And knowing that obviously the double is going to be a lot thicker than this. And if you need to adjust with a bit of water, no harm. Now, this is for when we're going to start the polenta. And then this will go in here, but not just yet. Let me just show you. They start of kind of like releasing water, but not in a huge amount. But if I was to add the salt right away, then it would have been a problem. That's why I said, you know, don't add the salt right from the beginning in this situation. Although you kind of get some benefits when it comes to flavor, because adding the seasoning from the beginning, you will add some sort of benefits, because obviously you get the seasoning is going to incorporate in there soon a lot faster. But for mushrooms, try to kind of keep it towards the end, although it's not that big of a deal if you do it the other way around, because I'm pretty sure I'm doing it sometimes and you still kind of get to the same results eventually. Okay, these look really nice. I'm gonna give them another, let's say 2 minutes. And after that, what I need, I'm gonna go in with the, so we've got the cream. Gonna just open this. It's gonna be mainly sour cream, but the cream is just basically there to adjust the whole sauce. And it might be that we need just a touch of flour. The flour probably will be just because we need a bit of flour, just because let's say the mushrooms leave a lot of liquid, and on top of that we're adding the single cream, which is kind of watery in a way. Sour cream is not, but obviously in combination with all the juice from the mushrooms, it's going to be pretty liquid. So just like 2 good pinches of flour, which we're adding them now, just kind of like, because I know it's going to be too much liquid. I mean, you can tell already the mushrooms are leaving some liquid here, and we've got that cream, which you're not going to add it all, but we still need to add enough to balance the sauce. So I'm going to go with, like, let's say a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, of flour, which the flour in theory should give us a better, it should give us a better consistency of the sauce. If we need to add more, we can add later on, but obviously once you add it, make sure that you cook that flour. So let's say if you add it towards the end, then you need to bear in mind that you need to give it another couple of minutes so you cook the flour. Otherwise, you kind of eat raw flour in the end, so you don't want that into your sauce. Now, adding it from now is going to kind of bring everything together. We might need more, we'll find out. I added kind of like a 1/4 of it. We'll see. Now, at this point, I can go in with the salt. I'm just going to go a good pinch of salt in there, because now we're going to be adding the sour cream. This is about 300 mils of sour cream. It all depends, obviously, how much sauce you want. But for what we've got here, I'm just going to go with all of it. Reduce the heat, because you don't want now, it's going to split the whole thing if you keep it on high heat. And also, I'm going to go in with a touch of cream. Now, this is as easy as you can get. Obviously, you can go a lot more complicated and kind of like cooking it in stages. Make sure that you get, like, you could do, let's say, the mushrooms first, get them colored, cook the onion and so on. But we try to keep it as simple as possible. People kind of lose interest whenever they need to go through like multiple stages and do this, do that, and after follow this, follow that. It's just like so much complicated. Now, let me actually show you what's going on here. So at this point, you want to keep low heat and you want to kind of simmer it. Not a lot, because I'm kind of happy with the texture, the way it is, the sauce. So I think we got a good balance. So that's what it is. So if you're not sure, let's say, because I kind of like knew just by looking at it that probably around 300 mils will do the job. If you're not sure, obviously go with 150 at the beginning. Go 150, go a touch of cream, and then if you see, oh, this is a bit too dry, maybe I need a bit more liquid, then it's when you kind of like add more. when it comes to, as I said, when it comes to single cream, this is sweet. So this is kind of balancing the sourness of the sour cream. So that's why I'm adding it. But if you were to make the traditional recipe, you're not going to do that. Now, what I should have done, which I've not done it, but it's fine. We're going to survive with it. I should have removed the garlic before adding the cream. Obviously, if you look at this, it's going to be too complicated now to find it. Although I might have some luck to find it now, but because it's a white stew in a way, it's gonna be too complicated finding it. Now, while this comes to the simmer, let's just give you a bit of a taste, see how it tastes, because now we can adjust the seasoning as well. I think just a bit of salt, and I'm also gonna go with a bit more cream, single cream. So that was 300. So we added 300 of sour cream, and we added about 100, because this is 250 altogether, 100 of single cream, or let's say you could use double. It's just something that, a cream that is sweet basically, so kind of balances the whole thing. Right, so this is doing its thing. Do you guys have any questions? Let me see. No questions, that's good. Some kids from Britain. Man, thank you for watching. You guys can watch from YouTube. You guys can watch from Facebook, because we are on both platforms. I really appreciate that you're here. If you're late into the stream, we are making a nice polenta. And so polenta is going to be the next part that we're doing. But this is the mushroom sauce. A nice, easy white mushroom sauce, nothing complicated. As I said, try to use as many varieties of mushrooms as you can. As many as you can find. I mean, let's be honest, you're not going to go crazy with 20 varieties, but obviously the more you're using, kind of the more interesting the flavor gets. I only use 2 today anyway. I'm kind of putting a lot of pressure on you to try to use as many mushrooms as possible, but even with 2, I can feel that mushroom flavor a lot stronger than, let's say, using just like white button mushrooms, which are not ideal for this recipe. Not that you cannot use them, and not that I never use them, but they don't really give that much flavor. That's the only problem. Okay, so we're gonna leave this now the way it is, and I'm gonna do just a few, just let me show you here. So I've got here fresh thyme. I'm just gonna do a few leaves of thyme, not a lot, because this is kind of strong, so I don't want to feel that thyme like pretty strong. As I said, whenever you're making something, whenever, let's say, whether you're making soups, we're making mushroom soups, mushroom stew, whatever is we're making, we need to feel that flavor, the main ingredient, which today is mushrooms. So we don't want to overpower with thyme. So that's why I'm not adding a whole lot, but that's just enough for what we need. Now, dill, few leaves of dill. I'm just gonna put actually just the leaves, so just remove the stalks. If you are to make soups or anything like that, you can keep them and just use them after that. But for now, I only want the leaves. So I'm just going to try to remove. If you don't, and by the way, obviously, if you don't have fresh dill, which obviously is not in season, this is something that you can use dry dill, and this will do the job as well. So decide between one or another, depending on whether you can find some at the shop or you can't. So now let's just chop this. I'm not going to go too crazy, too fine. I don't want to kind of break the leaves that much. So that's all it is. And this is going to go at the end. We're not adding this just yet, but we're just kind of getting ready. So this came to the boil now. I think the sauce is just perfect. I'm not sure how much you can see, but if, let's say, at this point I'm not happy with, let's say it's too thick, I could just add a bit more liquid, or even some water would do the job. I mean, let's be honest, a touch of water will not do any harm. But if, let's say, I think that is too thin, I could go with another touch of flour, just kind of getting to the point that I'm happy with it. Okay, I'm not going to give it too much. Mushrooms are cooking quite fast. They were probably cooked by the time I added the cream. So I just kind of want to bring all these flavors together. And I'm going to leave this here. and I'm gonna move on to with the polenta. So with the polenta, it's very easy. I mean, let's move this aside because I'm actually happy the way it is. I still want to have that texture of mushrooms to fill it. So this is kind of continued cooking. That's one of the things that you need to bear in mind. It's hot, right? So although it's not boiling, I'm removing it from the heat. It still has a lot of heat in there. So by the time the polenta is done, which is going to take us like 20 minutes, this continues slowly cooking. So that's something that you need to bear in mind, especially this is not that critical now, but let's say you're cooking something and you want to stop that cooking. Well, that's when you need to put it either on icy water or get some icy cubes in there, but this is not the case in this situation. But I'm just saying in general, let's say you're making poached eggs. That's one of the examples that you're probably more familiar with. Okay, so now without talking that much, let's get this started and we're talking more about after. So I'm adding some butter in here. Butter about 15-20 grams or so. Unsalted butter, salted butter, whether you're adding one or another, it doesn't really matter, because if let's say you're adding unsalted, you're putting more salt after. If you're putting it salted, just bear in mind, then you're probably gonna add a touch less. Now, yeah, and to make it a bit more complicated, this is the low salted butter. So it's got some salt, but it doesn't have much. Now, let's get the water in. I don't really have a recipe for polenta. Whenever I'm making polenta, I'm just kind of like, let's see if we can kind of see how much I'm adding. Yeah, that should do the job. It's not, so 1 liter, it's not 1 liter, it's less than 1 liter. It's probably like 700 mils of water, something like that. I'm not making more than two portions or so. If it's a bit more, no problem. But you know me, when it comes to portions, it all depends how hungry you are. Because a portion that I believe is 200 grams, it might not be 200 grams for you. Obviously, there are some sort of standards when it comes to portions, but we're making homemade cooking here, so portions are kind of vary. So good pinch of salt in there, actually a bit more than a pinch. I mean, good pinch probably is like 2 pinches of salt. We're gonna bring this to the boil. So far we've got there some butter. So just one sec. Got kind of a runny nose for some reason. So we put in the butter. So now that we have the butter in, we're gonna bring this to the boil. And then after that, gradually, I'm gonna be adding the polenta flour. There is a trick with polenta. I mean, the one I grew up with and the one I know, and probably the one it's popular in Romania, because you can find in multiple shops polenta, but not all the polenta is the one that you can use for situations like this. You need a coarse kind of texture polenta. You're probably not going to be able to see because it's obviously too small for like the camera to see it, but you got to make sure that it's not like it's not the consistency of plain flour, let's say, or close to plain flour. It should be a lot coarser than that. It's somewhere, it's like kind of close to if you bought breadcrumbs from the shop, or even if you make it yourself, it's close to that consistency, texture. So that's how you need to buy it. Obviously, if you're buying polenta from a Romanian shop, most likely is the only one you're gonna find because this is the most popular one. But if let's say you're buying it from different locations, they sell all sorts of grades. So you'll find from like very fine to, and the very fine one will give you a really weird texture. Although you can use that for certain recipes, we don't want that for today. And my mom is here. Of course. Right. So bringing this to the boil is gonna take us a bit of a time, not that much, but let's put a lid on, not a ladle. Okay, so we've got that one on. Let's get the Parmesan open. Was this open? I think it was. I'm just kind of like stupid opening from the other side. So Parmesan, as I said, this is definitely, there's nothing to do with the original recipe. Butter does, in my opinion. Obviously, butter has been used for ages. No matter whether you are from Jersey or from Romania or from China or from wherever you are, butter is butter. We're using butter pretty much all the time. Now, of course, if you don't have butter, if you want to go cheaper, obviously just go with a bit of oil. That's kind of needed. But yeah, a bit of butter will just get you a lot better results. Okay, if you guys could give this a big thumbs up now, I would really appreciate it. And if you give it a share, even better. So we get to more people are seeing what we're doing here. Because we kind of like having a good time. I mean, I'm not sure about you, but I definitely like, you know, being live with you. Okay, so bringing this to the boil. And let me think, do we need anything else? Not really. Yeah, the mushroom look good. So that's something that we're going to come back after that. But for now, we're just going to stick with the polenta. We're just going to get this up to speed. We are on induction, so shouldn't take us that long. Let me just increase the heat. The pan is literally going to go crazy now. So you need a whisk. Get a whisk for this. When it comes to like how thick or how thin, this is something that's kind of like, it's one of those weird situations where some people like it like really thick. Obviously, this is like really traditional one recipe. Is like in open cooking over open fire in a big pot outside, you know. So that's obviously different kind of story. The flavor is going to be absolutely different and amazing. And even if I said that this is a coarse kind of texture when it comes to polenta, if you go like really traditional and you get it like stone grounded. When it comes to the polenta, is even bigger, the texture, you know. This is kind of like obviously shop bought, so they kind of keep it the same level. But when you, let's say, stone ground the actual corn, then obviously you're gonna get even bigger. And I think that's even slightly better, but I can't really find it in shops. So that's as big as we can go. And don't get me wrong, this is enough. But traditionally, like if you go like all the way, that's probably gonna be open fire outside, big pot, coarse polenta, like home, kind of like grounded in over the stone. Right. So at this point, now reduce the heat and start gradually adding the. You don't want to go too crazy because this is gonna get like really thick. So ideally, I mean, that's why you don't really need to kind of have a recipe, because let's say that's as much as I added for now. I don't know how much was that. Let's say a quarter of a cup, half cup, something like that. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. Obviously, I know already that I need more, but let's say you don't know how to make, because I didn't really give you any recipe, because I don't have a recipe for this. I just kind of look at it and knowing like how to adjust, whether I need to adjust with. I usually don't really need to add more water, but usually the way I adjust it is by adding more of this polenta flour. So we're just gonna go gradually till it gets like thicker and thicker. Obviously, don't go crazy right from the beginning, because at some point you will get like really thick as soon as those, as soon as these like polenta kind of like flour particles, you know, absorb all that water. It's getting like pretty thick. So just go gradually. And that's how you're going to know when to stop, when you're adding more, when you're adding less. Now, I know 100% that what I've added so far is not enough. So I'm just going to go with more. And in order to don't get like any lumps, you need to go, that's another reason why you need to go gradually. Making sure that it gets well incorporated with that water, with that hot water. It's already getting thicker. I mean, I'm not sure how much you guys can see, but comparing to what it used to be, it's getting thicker already. So we'll give you a bit more time, and then after that, go with a bit more flour. And at the end, once we kind of figure out how much, because obviously adding it in stages, you're gonna have, let's say, the ones you added at the beginning is gonna be done by the time you add the, let's say, your latest kind of like batch. So once you're at the end, you give this another like 10 minutes, let's say, of cooking, just to make sure that everything is cooked. And because obviously having this texture, which is kind of coarse texture, you need to make sure that you have it cooked properly. And even if, let's say, you were cooking with a texture that's kind of like thinner, you still need to cook that flour. if you guys have any questions, obviously anytime, just drop me a message. Or if let's say this stream is ended, then you can definitely hit me on Facebook or even on YouTube. Just leave a comment and I'll respond. I respond to all the comments. So yeah, just make sure you do that and I'll be back whenever needed. Okay, this is getting thicker and thicker, but I'm still not there. I want it to be a lot thicker than this. I'm just going to give you another minute, see how it gets, because obviously it's getting thicker by the more we kind of cook it. But it needs more. It definitely needs more flour. We'll just give you a bit of time. And then once we get to the point that we are happy with the texture, what we're going to do, let me find the... Okay, let's see where the... Grater, okay, grater, perfect. We're gonna add some Parmesan in there. You can make this a lot faster than I do. As I mentioned at the beginning, obviously if you are to cook the mushrooms, let's say we were to add the other induction, which has 2 rings, we could cook on one side the mushrooms, on the other the polenta, and we would have been done by now. But just because, you know, I feel like explaining it separately, you're gonna get a lot better understanding about what's going on here. But if you can, obviously, if you can do a bit of multitasking, you'll be done a lot faster than I am. Not that I cannot get it faster than that, but I think the whole point of this whole live stream is that you guys kind of like see what's going on here and maybe implement this into your day-to-day cooking. Plus, I'm not in a rush. I'm not going anywhere. I've got another, like, let's say, hour if needed, so no problem. Okay, more polenta. So I don't think it's going to get now any thicker than that with what we added so far. So we're going with a bit more. At this point, you want to make sure that you kind of speeding up with the mixing, because being thicker, there's like higher chances of getting lumps. So make sure you give it like a good mix. So you're kind of breaking them apart before they have the chance to kind of compact in like to get stronger, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it after that. And also it's probably worth mentioning that the traditional recipe with like the shepherd, this is like a kind of shepherd kind of style recipe. Well, not this one in particular, but I'm talking the origin of the recipe. They, as I said, they're making it outside, open fire, big pan, and then just kind of mix it like and cook it for a lot, probably longer than I do, just because they want to get like to a lot thicker consistency. And it gets to the point that it's so thick that when it gets removed from the pan, it's literally like I don't even know how to. It's almost like bread, kind of like consistency. It's that thick and that dense. And then you use it like a piece of string and then just cut it like that, like you would do with cheese, for example. Yeah, that's something that you're not going to find very often, to be honest. Even in Romania, it's only certain people that are still doing it, or in the mountains, for example, like, as I said, shepherds, they are still doing it, although it's a job that's kind of gone. Not many people are doing it. Okay, so we're adding a bit more now. This, I think, is the last time we're adding it. That's another like 2 tablespoons or so. Right. That's a lot better. Yeah, if you grab it like this, obviously I should have done it earlier, but just kind of you grab it like this. Now be careful, obviously, because from now on it starts boiling and you need to kind of control the heat as well. And you don't want to get splattered with that hot, because it's like a hot magma, literally. So you need to be careful. So from now on, we're probably giving it, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes, because I'm kind of happy like with what I've got here, and it's gonna get thicker. So I don't want to go more than that, because for this recipe that we're using, I think it's just perfect, because it's gonna combine perfectly with the sauce. Obviously, if you were to do something else, as I said, you can go thicker than that, but I think for what we've got, it's just perfect. Let me actually show you. So that's how kind of it looks now, but then obviously we're cooking it for another like 5 to 10 minutes. So it's gonna get even it's gonna get even thicker. So I don't need any more polenta, or at least I don't think that I need, at least for now. Okay, so polenta out the way. Just gonna put it here. I'm just kind of getting out the way stuff which I don't use. And now I'm gonna leave these actually till the end. Grate a bit of like Parmesan and just incorporate everything together. Look, already like it's getting thicker. So that should be what we want. I don't know, I can kind of measure this. So this was 1 kilogram, if let's say I measure it. So that was literally on the spot. I'm not sure how much you can see, probably not, but it was like 250. So let's say 250 grams. I'm just kind of trying to make up a recipe here, although, as I said, you don't really need the recipe, because you're gonna know gradually how much you need and how much you wanna add just by looking at it and continue mixing and adding and so on. But let's say 250 grams of polenta flour, and we had here about, I remember, like 750 or so, about 750 of water. Roughly, that's probably like the rough. I'm not saying that this is like the exact recipe. Don't take my word, because as I said, I did not follow a recipe. I'm just kind of gradually going here with, and just stop whenever I feel like the consistency is right. All you have to kind of worry about is making sure that you cook it properly, because obviously otherwise you're going to feel all those grains, and it's not going to be good for your tummy as well. So you kind of need to ensure that now at this point it gets properly cooked. So as I said, 10 minutes or so should do the job. If you're not sure, you can taste it, and if you feel like there is still grain in there, because obviously even if it's like broken in pieces, you know, like the texture of the actual corn, you still have some texture in there, and if you feel it, then probably you need to cook it a bit more. Yeah, this is not the time to go al dente or so just kind of cook it all the way through. And I see that we still have 6 people around. Thank you guys for being here with me. I mean, if you were probably here from the beginning, you know what's going on. We're making some nice polenta with a nice white mushroom stew. I mean, it's kind of like a stew. It's more of a like stew or sauce. I can't really say, because as mentioned, this is some sort of Romanian recipe incorporated into whatever I'm doing on day to day. So it's not exactly the original one. It's not probably completely far from it, but it's definitely not the original one. Okay, so this still simmering there, is still going. Now what I want to do at this point, so I've got here the mushrooms. Let me actually show you, see what's going on. I'm gonna go in with this. So this is the dill is going straight in. Not just that it looks better when it comes to like you have something green in there, but dill, mushrooms, I think they work well together. So what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna put it back on the heat, bring into the simmer, stop everything, and then just combine everything into the plate. At this point, you could use a spoon as well. Let's say a wooden spoon would do the job. I'm kind of lazy. I'm just going to continue like this. I don't want to do too much washing up as well. So that's another reason. Now, if you guys have any questions, obviously, as mentioned, just hit me in the chat, or even after that, I'm happy to answer. And I would appreciate it if you give this a big like and even a share. And if you're not a subscriber to my YouTube channel or to my Facebook page, if you're not following my Facebook page, I would appreciate if you do that, because we're doing more cooking here. I'm trying like once a week video. It all depends, because obviously this is not my full-time job. So it all depends the times that I have available, but once a week is probably fair to say that we're trying to do a live. And we're gonna do another one on Friday, because every Friday I should put a YouTube recipe on my YouTube channel, obviously, and I'm committed to that. And I figured that I actually enjoy a bit more doing live streams. So what we're gonna do Friday, instead of doing a recorded recipe, which are not bad, don't get me wrong, I actually enjoy a lot more being here with you. So we're gonna do a live stream on Friday. Hopefully, if you're all safe by Friday, we're gonna see you again. And I'm not entirely sure the time. I'm gonna schedule it, so it should be probably, let's say, 6, 7 p.m. I don't even know, something like that. We'll figure out. I'm gonna schedule it so you can actually see it. So I'm happy with this. I think the polenta is done now after cooking it for that long. So it's fine. As I said, if you want to go a bit more, nothing really is going to happen. What's important to do is make sure that you keep mixing it. Otherwise, it's going to get stuck to the bottom. Now, needs to be hot when we're serving it. So if you leave it like more, it's going to get like set in a weird way. You don't really want that because we want to serve it right away. Now, we're going to bring this to the... Oh, I did say that I'm going to add the Parmesan, which we're going to add it now since we bring that to the boil. So Parmesan, obviously nothing to do with the original recipe, but I think it works well with polenta. So we're just going to incorporate this Parmesan. I'm just adding like 15, 20 grams or so. I don't want a huge amount of Parmesan, just kind of give you a bit of like cheesy flavor. And then bringing that to the boil, let's just keep this on low so it doesn't go all over the place. And then I'm just going to combine them all into the plate, and we are pretty much there. I'm just going to show you the end result. I think this is absolutely amazing, whether it's winter or summer. It's just perfect, this dish. And same as I done mushrooms, you can obviously add chicken as well and do chicken and mushrooms. Do other varieties that you like. Do only chicken if you want to. Yeah, you can obviously adjust with whatever you like and whatever you've got available. But this is just an example what you can do, and it's easy. I don't think it requires a lot of skill to do this. Let me actually show you what we've got now and how thick it is now. I think this is just perfect, in my opinion, for what we need today. So that's what we got. Parmesan, making sure that we incorporate that in there to give you a bit of that cheesy flavor. Now, of course, we're going to taste, see if it's got enough salt. If we need to add more salt. I think it's just perfect the way it is. So these can stay on the side just for now. So bringing this to the boil, mixing everything together, and that's pretty much done. Let's make some space here, and I'm going to show you what we ended up with here in a minute. So cleaning the table. Now, quick, a plate. Polenta first. Obviously, you can go like really complicated, and when it comes to plating, this is not the time to do so. Just going to keep it simple. So polenta. As I said, if you feel like, probably if you are, and again, when it comes to Romanian recipes, bear in mind that Romania is a big country. I'm from northern Romania. Probably whoever is watching here are watching from, let's say, south of Romania, and they're looking at it like, what the heck is going on there? So it's all doing it by however it feels right for you. In the end, as I said, these kind of have some sort of Romanian origin, but in the same time, I'm making it my way. Now, let's put this together. So, mushroom sauce. Let me show you to see what's going on here. Let's clean this side. And my friends, there you have it. Polenta, easy to make. Mushroom sauce, easy to make. As I said, if you want to combine it with other ingredients, you can definitely do so. I really appreciate that you've been with me today. Make sure you give this a like on the way out and a share. Share it with your friends and family. And I will see you next Friday. I'm not sure if you're doing anything till next Friday. Probably not. But next Friday we have another video, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be live. So make sure you check my channel, my YouTube channel, or my Facebook for whenever I schedule the live. And thank you so much for being today with me. Bye.